Okay, guys, welcome back. In this video, I'm going to actually do asks and comments, try to get caught up because I haven't done them for about 3 weeks before the next episode of Dead City drops tomorrow. Um, just want to say, too, as I am recording this, I did it pretty early in the week, so if any new news has come out this week, I'm not going to have gotten it yet, but I will include it in the next video, of course. All right, so let's just jump into some comments. Okay. Naruto is an anime manga, and I think they meant beloved, most handsome lone wolf guy with a tragic family background is about to leave behind his home and friends to seek power, ready to spiral down in his darkness. But he is stopped by Sakura, the girl everyone looks down on, but is the one willing to pull him out of desperation or go with him, who runs up to, sorry, I don't know how to say his name, Sasuke, and hugs him the way Beth hugs Daryl. That is kind of a good parallel since they don't meet for years after that. They both grow, Sakura matures a lot, and finally turns out to be a medic and a fighter at the same time, still massively hated on for her weak past by the GA. They end up married with a daughter, so fingers crossed for Bethyl. Yeah, that sounds like a fantastic parallel. And then, thank you. I was going to explain it now. In that comment, I was referring to the moment Sakura and Sasuke from behind to stop the damned mark from, oh, I don't know how to say that. I'm sorry. Yep, those moments were essential because they did torture the ship till the end. So yeah, I mean, hey, I'm all for it if that is kind of a template that they might be following. So for sure. Thanks for replying. And again, please excuse my English. Today I was reading another theory about Rick's brother possibly appearing in Daryl Dixon season 4. Some people are saying they might replace his brother with Carl's aunt Evie, who's in the military and is mentioned very briefly in the main series. Interesting. I think they might take Evie's storyline and give it to Beth for rights reasons, or perhaps they could combine both storylines. I haven't been in the fandom that long, so I don't know if it's possible. I mean, yeah, anything's possible. That's one I haven't heard before, so that's super interesting. So yeah, thanks for commenting. These are really fascinating, and we'll just have to see where it goes. As I have to wait for my shift to end to listen to this. No, be right back in 3 hours. That's a funny comment. My forever favorite episode will always be Still. It was beautiful in a raw way. To me, it felt like they built up a scene where two people from very different settings, Beth, the golf club, and Daryl, the moonshine shack, were usually set up against each other in the previous system, but since it's in ruins now and money doesn't matter anymore, they could form a strong, meaningful bond and heal each other. You know, I'd never thought of it that way, that the two settings represent their two backgrounds. I really like that. That's super interesting. That's a really insightful observation. So thank you for that. I never thought of Beth saying the second round is better was anything of note, but now it seems obvious. Bethel round 2 will definitely be better. This was fun. I'm looking forward to the Alone deep dive. I also like to think that the peach schnapps is kind of a representation of all her relationships before, surface level, not that deep, but her first real drink, moonshine, is with Daryl. Yeah, I like that too. That's fun. What if in Dead City Daryl's on vacation in the AU sequence? That would be amazing if we saw him in the AU sequence. Like, I hope so. We haven't heard anything about that, and he does seem to have been busy filming other stuff, but hey, I mean, I am all for it if they could sneak that in. It would be amazing, yeah, if we saw. I agree. Loved this. The Adam and Eve atmosphere of Still and the Carl connection you spoke about in the other video made me think of Aunt Evie and Carl's letter to Rick. Carl talks about his 8th birthday when Aunt Evie surprised him with a big cake because she was on leave. So was she in the military? Could Aunt Eve be a hidden Beth reference? Up the Wolves has the party reference as well. Seeing her, Beth Eve, would be a big surprise, especially if she's been with a military organization. Just something that occurred to me as I watched the video. Can't wait for the Alone analysis. Yeah, we're getting lots of comments about that. I don't know. I've never thought about the Aunt Evie connection, but it's exactly the kind of thing Gimple would do. So I think you guys could be onto something there. We'll just have to wait and see. I enjoyed this video so much. Great analysis. You pointed out a lot of things I didn't notice before and makes my hope for Beth's return even more convincing now. Good. I mean, that is the idea, right? That's why I do them. If the snake is symbolic of an Adam and Eve motif, in this case, Daryl as Adam conquers the snake and shares the conquered snake with Beth as Eve, rather than Eve and Adam giving into the snake. Listening to the snake led to death entering the world. Had Adam done what Daryl did, then humanity would not be subject to death. Then there is the promise made to Eve that her offspring would strike at the snake's head. Thus, there is possible symbolism here of conquering or reversing death. Also, just FYI, Moonshine's origin is what is now called Poitin or Poichking. I'm probably not saying that right. In Ireland. Dixon is a Scots-Irish surname, specifically Border Reaver, but in Gaelic would be, yeah, I'm not going to try to pronounce that, which means water of life, the Gaelic translation of the Latin aqua vita. And this was originally clear, not aged in barrels, so moonshine is the oldest form of whiskey. Very interesting. Very interesting. Um, I'm not sure why it was telling you it was only 1 minute long. That's funny. That might have just been a section instead of a whole video. Okay. Let's see. I read that. Okay. You actually already did my Apple Ask, haha. Looking forward to the rest of it though, for sure. Lots has been happening. OMG, I'm going to lose my mind. Dana, Bethune, Beth Root, and Beth appearing at Bethesda Terrace. I'm going to lose my mind. OMG, read the titles, possibly representing an already seen arc. What if it's from the fever at the prison through the Grady, post-Grady, but seen through Coda formatting? Hear me out. Trillium, fever at the prison and search for medical supplies. Haven, the governor finding his new supporters, and TF prison recovery from the fever. Emigrants follow the prison and fracturing of TF into different areas or groups. Found lost, still and alone. Beth and Daryl found themselves and each other during Still and then lost at the end of Alone. Imperialis Claimer's arc, in addition to representing the upside down, it's also used to represent weeping, to mourn the departed. Daryl mourning Beth being just gone, trying to fall back on old habits with the Claimers, but them not fully sitting right, even running into the Grimes current and future from the wrong side of the altercation. Honestly, there's a lot of really cool stuff associated with this flower. And I can't say that, from Iranian culture, and would be so cool to look into for further comparison or analysis. And now we get the coda of it all. Genesis, OMG, there's so much here. I might even revisit it further, but basically this covers Terminus and Grady. Creation story, introduced to Terminus and Grady, Eden/Apple, Beth's first kill and subsequent loss of innocence. The flood, Noah's first introduction, both canonically and biblically, happens here. This is also the first deviation point. God is supposed to spare the righteous, Noah and his family. However, only Noah escapes from Grady, leaving Beth behind. This is not how the story is supposed to go. Tower of Babel focus now swinging back to TF's attempt to do something impossible, only to end up splintered and dispersed. Parallels between Terminus and Grady rescue, but ultimately the groups split up again, mostly due to Abraham. Abraham's first introduction also happens. Call upon to lead a long mission to journey to a new land and secure a future. Isaac, others from TF, Glenn, Maggie, carrying on Abraham's mission. Jacob/Israel, honestly, another topic I'd love to dig into more with Daryl specifically because of Leah and get some takes on. But for the sake of this topic, Jacob's ladder dream, second deviation, and the naming of Bethel. In Jacob's dream, he sees angels ascending and descending the ladder between heaven and what will be named Bethel. In this dream that leads to the naming of Bethel. However, Daryl only observes the ascent. He never sees a corresponding descent leading to Bethel, never being named, aka realized. Also, some cool things to be said about leading the 12 tribes of Israel versus the coordinated communities from the show. You know, Galadriel Jones has talked about the Leah connection to the Bible. And actually, that is a really good point because I haven't really thought about Jacob's ladder before. I'll have to think about that more. That's really interesting because I actually have a kind of a fascination with Jacob's ladder, like outside of TWD, like as a biblical story. But we do know that Jacob left his home because his brother was going to kill him. And it's the Jacob and Esau story, and goes to another land, and is there for a long time. But he does the part of the Bible that people, I feel like they never read it, or it's just not given very much attention. We read the Jacob and Esau story. We read the Jacob, Leah, Rachel story. We read, all of that. But what people, at least in my experience, don't talk about is the reunion at the end. When Jacob comes back to his homeland, he doesn't know if his brother is still pissed at him. He doesn't know if Esau is going to murder him as soon as he shows up, and he's really afraid. So he ends up sending people ahead of him to kind of suss out how his brother is feeling, and, do I need to get the heck out of here, or is he going to be okay with me coming back? And then they actually, it's been decades, and they both are fathers and grandfathers and have households and have, just really lived their lives and grown up. And so it's actually a very sweet reunion. Esau is no longer mad at Jacob, and he's very happy to see him. And they both, jump down off their horses or donkeys or whatever they're riding, and they hug. And it's just, it's very sweet. And it makes me very emotional when I read it. But, there's been all this talk, especially on social media and in the articles and stuff about whether there will be a Daryl Rick reunion. So that really could be a very potent parallel. Of course, Rick was never trying to kill Daryl the way Jacob and Esau, were at each other, but the idea of Daryl leaving his homeland for a long time and coming back to his brother, I hadn't actually thought of that. So that's really cool. I kind of really do think that's a thing. Okay, so keep going with your comment here. Joseph, our third and final deviation. Joseph is enslaved, but ultimately rises to power and is reconciled with his family. Yep, another one. However, with Beth, we saw her enslaved, but not the rise to power or recognition or reconnection with her family. So now the coda kicks in. We repeat the formatting above, but with corrections, allowing for the song to continue. Hourglass, Missing 17 Days, Beth's Unseen Journey, Tenebra, Resurrection, bonus points for the Hidden Christ figure too, OMG, OMG, OMG. I might actually be inspired enough to give up my years-long TD Lurker title on Tumblr to actually post something if I get more time for research, LOL, but I'd love to get you and your fellow theorists' take on this, please. Absolutely. Yeah, I think you've got something here. And, I was going to say, too, one thing that I completely forgot to, this is a little bit of a side comment. One thing I completely forgot to address in my video on season or episode 1, I keep saying season, episode 1 of season 3 was the trillium aspect, which we've already talked about it a lot on Tumblr. That it's a flower. It's sometimes called Beth root or birth root. But I mean, the obvious tie there was the fact that this woman, I'm sorry, I don't know her name, but it's Renata's sister-in-law, had a baby, right? And so that's probably where that's coming from. I didn't notice any actual trillium flowers, but I honestly wasn't looking that closely. So let me know if you did. But it's also suggesting the birth of something new, right? Just in general. And I think that's important because, everybody keeps saying this is a very different season. It's a new showrunner, the same one that did, seasons 4 through 6. Or, I mean, he wasn't the showrunner, but he was working on seasons 4 through 6. And, it's just interesting that when they do this whole rebirth, this is something brand new, and they even use trillium, which is something that Native Americans used to use in as to help medicinally with birthing pains, labor pains, that whole process. And suddenly Beth is here, right? It sort of signals that, I mean, obviously we're entering a new era and Beth is going to be involved. Like that's what that is telling me. So yeah, I think that you are definitely onto something here. And I love how you've laid this out. And even if, you're a little bit off in the details or something, I really think you're probably barking up the right tree. So yeah, thanks for laying this out. I will see what my fellow theorists think of it and see if I need to address it more. But I do really, really like this. And I think you're doing well here. So by all means, post something on Tumblr if you get more research and more to back this up. I would love to hear it. Okay. So even in just the first episode of season 3 of Daryl Dixon, there are 2 quotes from Daryl that clearly relate to Beth. The first is when he says to Carol, "I was pretty young when this all started." This means the speculation that he was 28 to 32 during season 4 of TWD is too old for Daryl during that season. To me, it sounds like he was a hard-looking 25, meaning a rough life aged him prematurely looks-wise, separate from Norman's age. Daryl saying he was pretty young just prior to the events of season 1, to me, would have him no older than 21 in season 1. The quote overtly addresses the concerns of some that he would have been too old for Beth. This quote plus 10 years of separation puts an end to any issues that some TWD fans would have with the age difference. And the only thing I would say to that is that you would think that would be true logically, and I agree with you. But there are certain ships who will still find some way, they will contrive some way to have a problem with it. So just to throw that out there. The second clear reference is when Daryl directly quotes what Beth told him when she tells Julian, "You're the last man standing," to convince him to sail off with Carolyn himself. Daryl clearly uses this line for impact because he remembers how it impacted himself. But there is also Daryl's first childhood flashback involving a dead-end sign. Beth was the only person he admitted to being nothing going nowhere before the events of TWD. This combined with Julian's lament about feeling ready to be with someone, but then the squid came, with Daryl's reaction could actually mean Beth references just in the first half of episode 1. Yeah, I totally agree. And they're putting those in on purpose because Daryl is, he's in the thick of his emotional arc, his internal arc, where he has to figure out this darkness that he's always had, and he's got to find some way to integrate it. And then if we want to go back to the whole idea of Jacob, Jacob doesn't get married until he leaves his homeland, and even though Leah was not his true love, Rachel was, and he had to accept Leah first before he could have Rachel. So, yeah, interesting parallels there for sure. Thanks for pointing that out. Refound lost. This is why I think it's flight and not fight. Found lost normally would be lost found, but if you do the lost found, then it's the L fight. So they had to switch those words around to make it the flight. So it's spelling the flight is particularly important because they went out of their way to make sure that's what it would be. Okay, so if you don't know what she's talking about, it's the whole thing where the first letter of each episode title of Dead City Season 3 technically spells out the fight. Um, but if you keep the L from found/lost, then it would be the flight. So interesting. Yeah. And I wonder what that pertains to. I think we're going to have to get all the way through the season before we can really have much more insight into that. Okay, I can address the movie that Emily was filming. It's The One. And it was shooting in Connecticut last couple of weeks of May, first couple of June. She then headed straight from there to France and went to that convention. What's interesting, though, is that she has been in Italy ever since. What's interesting, though, is she has been in Italy ever since and actually canceled the appearance at the Belgium convention, but still has another one in Germany scheduled in August. Basically, Emily is spending her entire summer in Europe. Several other cast members are currently in Italy, Sicily as well, Norman for one. Um, Canned Seta, which is Justina as well. Roman Levi posted a picture from a beach as well, but couldn't for sure pinpoint where he was. Jeffrey Dean Morgan and Lauren Cohen have both completely been MIA since their appearance for the Dead City premiere on the French coast. David Sibel and Norman Reedus were also randomly in Greece for a very short time, talking at a television panel during the same general time period. Very strange that so many cast members are confirmed to either be in the French Mediterranean or Italian Mediterranean area at the same time. Also, it's now been announced that in October, JDM, Lauren Cohen, and Norman Reedus will be attending a horror convention in Florida. Very long time, I feel, since they've done a con together. Again, furthering the idea that these shows are about to merge, in my opinion. No smoking gun or anything, but a lot of coincidence happening. Yeah, I completely agree. Lots of coincidence, which I, officially do not believe in coincidence. So I did notice on her story that she's been posting a bunch of pictures in Europe. It seems that she is definitely spending most of her summer there. Emily just got engaged in Italy. Seems it happens right after the French convention, but posting it on her story on 7/4 when she was originally scheduled to be at the convention in Belgium. Yeah, the things that make you go, Speculation for the timing reason aside, I'm happy for her. I am too. Congratulations to her. I did not see she got engaged, so happy for her. Did you see when she posted about her having to pull out of the Belgium convention appearance? She said it was due to scheduling conflicts. Super sus. Yes, it is. I'll have to look up the exact date. Pretty sure I screenshotted it. I actually have a theory that she actually got engaged back in LA, but is doing the announcement engagement party in Italy. It looks like his family is in Italy. All the pictures they've posted today from the engagement were actually from earlier days of their vacation. So the time she's supposed to be at the Belgium con, we actually don't know where she's been. Yes, I pay way too much attention to her on Insta because I love to theorize when she's actually filming. I'm glad you guys do because I don't have the time or the bandwidth to watch social media this closely. So I'm glad that you guys are because otherwise we would miss all this stuff. Oh, and Scott Gimple did say who it was that didn't have notice. I just can't remember who, but I know it wasn't Beth or Carl or anyone major. I'm not sure what that refers to that didn't have notice. Lauren Holden recently stated at the Paris convention that she found out the night before shooting that her character Andrea was dying, so I'm assuming that's who he was talking about. No, it wasn't Laurie. I went and rewatched the interview. It's Steve Coulter who played Reggie at the end of season 5. Laurie was before Scott was a showrunner. I was going to say the same thing, as was Dale. He was only talking about deaths since he became a showrunner. Otherwise, really didn't have anything to do with those deaths. See what other replies here we have. Oh, yeah, that's right. Thanks for clarifying. I just happened to watch Laurie interview and I thought maybe it was her. Yeah, there were definitely at least a few in the first 3 seasons that happened for sure, but Scott didn't take over until season 4. So I think at that point they did make a concerted effort to not let that happen anymore. So I guess you guys are talking about they didn't receive notice about their deaths, the death of their characters. And yeah, I would say the same thing that Andrea was before Scott Gimple was showrunner. He was working on it, but only as a junior writer. So yeah. All right. Great comments, you guys. Some of these are really well thought out. Let's see, I think I've done most of these. Just had a thought. What if the 7 candles, so this is from the Alone video, are a Jewish menorah parallel. Just as a menorah burns brightly in a dark temple, Beth is the light that pulls Daryl out of his darkness, or they might represent the 7 days of creation. Maybe the seven candles signify that their shared cycle is complete, because immediately after this peaceful candlelit night, walkers invade the funeral home. Daryl tells Beth to run, and she's kidnapped by the officers from Grady Memorial Hospital. Yeah, I think that's a really interesting idea. And, Norman even does have that famous interview he gave where he said, Beth was his light in the darkness, Daryl's light in the darkness, and it was sad that he watched the light go out. So yeah, I think that definitely could be a thing. And if I don't know if I said this on the video or not, but if Beth and Daryl are meant to be an Eden parallel, then when Beth is kidnapped, that kind of represents them getting kicked into the real world, which is hard, right? So yeah, I definitely think you could be onto something there. I really loved the bite cure theory, but now I must say I'm less sure about it since getting Beth's clothes. The gray sweater has bite hole marks in both arms at the same place. And if you pay attention to the handhold scene, those holes are already there and Beth is putting her thumb through them. Basically, Beth created those holes to make makeshift gloves. Of course, that's not the only thing that points to the bite cure theory. It was a major one for me. And now learning that those holes actually aren't from bites, this theory has less teeth, so to speak. Yeah, we'll just have to wait and see how it plays out. I'm sure that we'll have at least a few theories that will turn out to be completely wrong, but that's okay with me. I mean, it doesn't mean that they weren't hinting at things or trying to redirect us or anything like that. So yeah, we'll have to see where it goes. So looking forward to this. I do think that Daryl started falling for her on the porch in Still. That look he gives her with his half smile at one point is the most disarmed we've ever seen Daryl to that point, and maybe ever since. But Alone is where it's in full force. Like, just every scene in this episode was some kind of romance trope, and people are blind if they don't see it. I would say the ones who say they don't see it are willfully blind, but yes, I agree. Um, I wish they would have made it more clear how much time had passed between Still and Alone, though. Alone was originally not meant to air directly after Still. They were shown out of order. But given they are in warm clothes now, and the fact that Alone was actually meant to be aired a few episodes after it actually was, I think we are supposed to infer they've been together at least a couple of weeks where their connection has been growing off screen. Yeah, I think so too. I tend to not think that Beth wants a drink to quell her fears. I think it's more the opposite of Bob, so a foil. Her interest in having her first drink is more of an attitude of someone having a hard day, many days, and wanting to relax for once. Also, an assertion of feeling like an adult and accepting her father's death with a fondness for him, but he's no longer around as an authority figure. Beth is quite courageous and assertive in seeking out her first drink, and vocal about it. In contrast to Bob, hides his bottle because he is an actual alcoholic. So I think Beth's teasing Daryl by calling him Mr. Dixon when he tries to tell her not to drink so fast is evidence that while she admires him greatly, he certainly is not someone she sees as much older than her enough to be any kind of authority figure. Yeah, I agree. Do this one. I think I did this one. The Mona Lisa's expression is widely said to be that of her knowing something that we don't, a knowing smile. So over that word green is interesting. Yeah, that's a good point. A very good point. In his hallucination, Beth appears both with the wound too low and also has no wounds at all on her forehead. That's from talking about 509, I believe. With the flashback, another Beth parallel is that Merle is yelling at Daryl to run while he took a beating. Daryl at first, I think, was hesitant to go, but Merle kept yelling at him to run. And Alone, Daryl yells at Beth to run, and she says she won't leave him, but he keeps yelling at her to run with the addition of naming a meeting location. Then he takes the beating for her, essentially, before escaping. Oh, I didn't think of that. That's an interesting one. Out of all the memories Daryl has of Merle, this one bubbles up and seems more than just symbolic for storytelling purposes, but rather a pretty believable depiction of how Daryl's subconscious could merge two memories as something comes bubbling up to the surface. The memory of Merle is easier to remember on the surface, but it's believable that the memory of Beth is what is pushing this one to the top as Daryl's subconscious is connecting things all over the place. And the memory might also be partially false if it is blending of what happened with Beth. And this layered flashback comes during the season when Daryl also is clearly affected by seeing Justina and Roberto together. That's really interesting. I had not thought of that. We did talk about how this might relate to Beth, and I also think I mean you're saying that it's relating to Still, and that's really interesting. But he would have been in Merle's situation telling her to run. But I also have to wonder if it might connect to something that happened during the missing 17 days when he really probably did leave her behind. Again, they thought she was dead. They left her in a car meaning to come back, but he may be equating it with that, with running away from something that he wishes he had stayed and faced. So yeah, really, really interesting comment. Thanks for that. Okay, and I think we read this one about all the titles, right? Yeah. Okay, you guys, I think that is all of the comments I have. There were quite a few of them, and that was long. So I don't think I'm going to do asks for this video. I probably will not get to my inbox until next week after episode 2 of Dead City drops, but I will get to it then. We will get caught up. But yeah, there's a lot going on, and everybody has a lot to say, and I'm absolutely loving it. So feel free to keep it up. It's just taking a little bit longer to get through. So we will get the new episode of Dead City within a day or two. And so I will just see you when it's time to discuss that. Thanks for being here with me. And I'm having tons of fun now that Dead City is back on and we have lots and lots of stuff to discuss and analyze. So thanks for commenting and sending stuff in, and I will talk to you soon.